Welcome to episode 16 of the Can I Tell You Something podcast. Today we have quite a special episode for you all. We are going to be doing a Kahoot quiz, and not just your everyday end of class Kahoot quiz. We are doing a Kahoot quiz based off of 4 questions that you had for me that we can't quite Google.
Yeah, so these are questions that I have just kind of come up with in my everyday life, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have had these questions or really similar questions before. But you're right, you can't just look up the answer in Google. It's not an obvious answer. And so, why don't you let us know what those questions are?
Yes.
So we can get started with our Kahoot. Oh, and real quick, if there's anyone out there who doesn't know what Kahoot is, it's basically an online or app style trivia game that's typically used in the classroom, and it has kind of a little cult following. I know I played it in school.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, you did too. So most of you will probably recognize it, but if not, that's a little background on why we're using the Kahoot, but we're going to be asking questions. It's just 4 questions, so it's a quick quiz, but in between we'll be debriefing and actually understanding and learning the answers to my abstract questions.
Yes, so the 4 questions are as follows. First, why does envelope glue taste sweet? Second, why can the government just shut down? Third, how do they get that pumpkin smell in the candles? And 4, why do airport trains feature narration from obscure local athletes?
Yes, these all came from my brain. You can see they aren't connected really in any way. These are more, I think you worded it well before we were recording. It's like they're kind of intrusive thought style questions that you might have and then either like too embarrassed to look up or just move on with your day and never quite get the answer to it. So we will be giving you the answer to these questions, but I also wanted to let everyone know that we kind of want this to be a recurring style of episode. And so if any of you out there have similar questions that you might have that you just can't seem to find the answer on Google, let us know because I would love to incorporate some of your questions on the show.
Yes, absolutely. So without further ado, let's get into the Kahoot. So
question 1. Okay, we have entered the waiting room. I will be playing against some bots, just so everyone knows. So wish me luck. Here we go. Question number 1. Why does envelope glue taste sweet? It's not. It's in your head, honey, sugar and vanilla, and a combination of mystery chemicals. I'm going combination of mystery chemicals. Oh, no, I got it wrong.
So for the actual answer, I found us an envelope glue recipe.
Oh my gosh. Before we answer, because I'm really upset, I am in last place, people. This is bad. This is really, really bad.
This is a tough look for you. Your pumpkin face is quite frowny right now, but I could see exactly where you were. And to be honest, a big reason why I chose that answer to write in that answer was because that's what I was thinking the answer was to begin with.
Definitely. I mean, you'd never think that something that is mass produced and has been for a really long time would feature like actual ingredients over just a bunch of chemicals.
Yeah. So I learned a couple things. One is that it used to be a trend. It was like a smaller trend. So big envelope wasn't doing it, but some smaller ones were to have flavored envelopes. And this was back when envelope glue was kind of a bit nasty to lick. And there's some evidence that people would would joke around about having their dog lick their envelopes.
Oh, so they had to change it just truly out of necessity.
Out of necessity, yeah. I mean, if I need a little bit of, moisture to shut an envelope, I'm going to probably use my tongue for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the quickest route. But also, I think we think that because envelopes taste good now. But before, if they didn't, I would probably never think to use my tongue.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what I would
like a sponge.
use.
Like
But then you have to have a special
sponge. But I always have my tongue.
You always have your tongue.
And yeah.
The interesting part of this that I'm curious about is, when did envelope glue really happen? Because traditionally, obviously, letters were wax sealed.
Yeah.
And people still do that today if they have some class. But now it's like every card you get from the store is sealed with glue. And I wonder when that switch happened.
I don't know, actually. I know that mail is a very regulated thing. I wouldn't be surprised if regulations play into it in some capacity, but I can't tell you why we switched to this sort of glue. I suspect it's also a lot cheaper to use envelope glue.
Oh, definitely.
And a lot more convenient, too.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably just the convenience factor, because anyone who's mailed anything with a wax seal knows that, yeah, it looks pretty, but it takes a lot of your time and patience compared to the basic mail envelope glue that we know today.
Yeah, if I can have like a little gross moment with an envelope and I get the same task done, that's what happens.
To reiterate, the answer was vanilla
and sugar.
So how did that come about?
So this is where we get into, how did I find out this answer? Because if you just look up, why is the envelope glue sweet? It's kind of hard to get to the bottom of it. And if you look up the ingredients list of envelope glue, manufacturers aren't publishing their ingredients for something that we're licking
That's intellectual property. The Krabby Patty formula. They can't give that away.
And this will actually be kind of a reoccurring theme. It's like ingredients lists are really just for food, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's kind of proprietary knowledge. But I found a lot of crafty blogs out there.
Mommy blogs?
Yes, that all were talking about making your own envelopes out of paper in your house, like making handmade envelopes for your friends.
I'm sorry, but some people have way too much time on their hands.
Yeah.
Like, well, it was no hate.
I think I might do it.
Okay, arts and crafts time. But I guess, personally, I wouldn't choose to spend my time making homemade envelopes. But go off.
Yeah. I don't know. This one is actually on the left. It is from one of those blogs, and it looked kind of cute. But anyways, the ingredients are as follows. In case any of you are trying to make your own envelope glue at home: 3 tablespoons of white vinegar, 1/4 ounce of granulated gelatin, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 teaspoon of white sugar. So the combination makes it really sticky, but then sweet too.
So the gelatin is the glue, essentially?
I think that the sugar plays also into the glue as well. Think about how honey's really sticky. If you put honey on the edge of an envelope, it's gonna get kind of.
But I just don't. Shut. I think it would initially, but I don't see it holding, especially going through the mail.
Once it dries, I bet that's where the gelatin comes into play.
Or maybe this isn't effective. Maybe this is good for hand delivering mail. See, that's why I clicked a whole bunch of chemicals.
Yep.
Because to me, it sounds great.
Yes.
Sounds healthy, right? I don't think that would stay shut.
So this is where I say we haven't tested this, so we can't really say for sure, right? And then second, the glue doesn't need to be strong. It just needs to be stronger than the paper. That is your criteria, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know how strong this glue is. Is it up to industrial mailing standards? Who knows?
I don't think so.
But either that or I feel like a lot of the think about how moonshine's really strong. It's either that or the absolute opposite. You can't undo the envelope. You have to just shred the whole thing. Maybe we should test this out.
I think we should. But I am I think it's healthy to be skeptical of mommy blogs.
Of course. But it was like, this was the recipe on like 8 different ones. Like I kept on scrolling.
It's the same everywhere?
Yeah. And that's what, like, I wouldn't have chosen the vanilla extract and white sugar answer unless it was pretty much like it was these 3 ingredients for every single blog.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So we at least know the palette, the flavor palette.
Yes.
It could be different for, let's say, Hallmark. They might have their own special formula. And I have noticed that between each brand, there are kind of different flavors. Like sometimes I'll go to the store and get a card with an envelope, of course, that just tastes so good. Like especially good.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll get one where I'm like, would not lick again, Take note for next time.
It's really a shame that mailing's gone a bit out of fashion, because when I was hearing that they used to have flavored envelopes, I just thought, like, what the heck?
Where did that go? You know how it was like a thing to spray your perfume with love letters?
Yeah.
I feel like scent and now taste is somehow just like really cool in letter form.
I think so too. Well, okay, think about it this way. I'm going to put on my little like techie boy hat. We have figured out ways to capture light through pictures, movement through videos, and sounds through microphones, right? We have not found good ways to capture and duplicate or replicate smells. So smells are really quite powerful. They also have a big connection to your memory. And this we'll get into a little bit with the pumpkin candle thing. But smell and memory are really closely linked. So smells often trigger memories and they can be very fun, but we don't know how to recreate them in the same way that you can listen to someone's voice on your phone. You can't send a smell. That'd be really kind of funny if you could. There have been some companies that have tried too.
I'm just thinking of all the ways that could go wrong, but also that I hope one day you can.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, I'm thinking of like those 4D movie theaters.
Yeah.
Or the Soarin' ride in Disneyland. And it's like, those are just so fun because of the smell.
Yeah.
Really nothing else. Like the smell sells it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, think about when you go into your favorite restaurants or like bakeries and you're like, oh, the smell. Molly Moons does that to me every time we walk by.
That's an ice cream shop for everyone who's not local. But okay, so we got to the bottom of this. At least we think.
More or less.
Yeah, more or less we have an idea. And I think I'm better for it. I think I have a much better understanding of big mail and why they do what they do.
Big mail.
Just Hallmark.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to question number 2.
Question number 2.
I gotta get my rank up because this is embarrassing.
Oh, don't worry.
Right. Here we go.
I did, for our listeners that are with us so far, I did sprinkle in a couple of extra bonus questions.
Ooh,
yeah,
I was not told about this.
Yep. So this is a live reaction.
Is this a bonus one coming up?
No.
Oh, okay.
So it's 2 questions, bonus. 2 more questions. Bonus. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Question number 2. Why can the government just shut down?
It's in too much debt. It's being dramatic. Only Congress has the federal government company card. States are withholding funds. I'm going to go it's in too much debt. What? Wait, no, you're kidding. You're actually kidding.
It's yes.
Okay. I got it wrong again.
Yeah.
And the correct answer is as follows. Only Congress has the federal government company card.
That was a little tongue-in-cheek.
I genuinely thought that was the one that was in there to throw me off.
No, that was the right answer.
Okay. I just need to read these options off again because I hope I'm not alone in saying that this was hard.
I was being a little tricksy with this one.
You were.
Yeah.
Okay. So why can the government just shut down? It's in too much debt. It's being dramatic. Only Congress has the federal government company card, and states are withholding funds. So obviously I knew it's being dramatic was the Trixie and false one.
Yeah.
States are withholding funds just didn't seem real.
Mm-hmm.
But that was going to be my second answer.
Yeah, that's a good instinct.
And then it's in too much debt. I thought, obviously, we're always talking about how much debt we're in. First of all, another question, what does that mean? But we'll get on to that later.
Yeah.
And then only Congress has the federal government company card. Okay.
I did word that a little funny.
Well.
And I'm sorry that I led you astray, but
please fill me in.
I will fill you in on this one because I thought it was funny to me because
you're not the one taking the test, obviously.
Exactly.
Am I still in 6th place? Yep.
Oh no.
8th place.
Nobody's perfect is what they said. Wow.
So tell me. What does this mean?
Why does this do the thing? So here's what I'm going to say. Only Congress can approve of spending with federal money.
Right. Got that.
Right? Which means that the only way that the federal government can ever fill out paychecks or have programs continue to run is if Congress says, okay. Otherwise, they have no access to funds because there's a good chance that Congress might rewrite that budget and your department doesn't exist anymore.
I get that.
Right?
I get all of that.
Yes.
But how does that lead to a quote unquote shutdown?
So when the government is being shut down, it's essentially that the current agreements for spending, it's contracts and all that, are cut off. There's no, we have no,
all of them?
All of them except for very essential. So employees are furloughed. All non-essential employees are employees are furloughed. A bunch of people will likely not show up for work too. There was actually, in my research, I found that one of the biggest concerns in 2019 with that government shutdown was that TSA employees wouldn't show up.
Right.
And typically what happens in these shutdowns is employees will get back pay. So it's not like they're losing funds long term. But it is one of those things where if Congress hasn't passed a budget, then all of these agencies are not really in a position to spend Congress's money. It's more or less the credit cards in jail until they get their stuff together. And I thought that was really interesting too, because I was wondering where, what does it look like for an American citizen's dollar to get collected through federal taxes and then end up back in a spot where Congress can use it? And it's just tax collection goes to the Treasury where, they're basically taking money out of the economy and then they create a budget that can put money into the economy. So this is a bit more complicated because this is not the way that we used to think about money and currency. This is the idea of modern monetary theory, where essentially the Treasury is just controlling how many dollar bills are in circulation, and that's it. And so when it came to the instinct is if we're in so much debt, why that should be a reason to shut things down. But it doesn't really work like that. And I don't fully understand why. I've heard it explained a lot of times, but it is kind of complicated. But it's more or less that we control our own currency, so we can print however much we want and we can take however much we want out of circulation. And since it's not backed by gold or anything, then it is up to the Treasury to decide how much is in circulation. And that is decided through loan interest rates, more or less. Is they have all these little tools to turn up inflation and turn it down. So lately, that's been one of the issues that they've been working on, is trying to reduce inflation without a huge economic crash. And also for, kind of a ramble, but forgive me for a long train of thought, but a lot of Planet Money episodes and me trying to synthesize knowledge. But that's the way I understand it.
So the reason I asked this question is because, I've had this question since I figured out that the government could shut down.
Yeah.
And I've tried looking it up, and I don't really get a straightforward answer.
Yeah.
And I also have just felt really dumb for not getting it. Specifically with politics and how our government is structured, I've really struggled to understand it.
Yeah.
But I get that.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, really? That's the reason? Like, that's all the fuss?
And it really shows, a couple things. Is one, I got the question you were asking too, because it's not as simple as like, oh, why does the government shut down? It's like, oh, because Congress didn't pass spending. It's like, what does that even mean?
Right. I'm trying to go deeper here because specifically the phrase shut down.
Yeah.
I think of schools, businesses, things like that. I don't think of the government in that way as this more or less corporation or entity that can operate independently of its citizens. And it's tough because it's like, well, yeah, of course it is. But growing up, you just don't think of it like that. So to associate the term shut down with government, it's scary. It's really weird. And I think that's what also kind of tripped me up.
Yeah.
Trying to get to the bottom of this. But I like approaching that in this Kahoot style because it is much easier to understand. And I obviously thought it was going to be a different answer.
Yeah.
But, it makes sense that it's just coming down to money.
And while it was a bit of a cheeky answer, I do really like explaining things with almost a little bit of a joke to it, because remembering that, the legislative branch has the purse, like, not fun.
Yeah.
Congress got the company card. People can remember that.
Yes, I was going to say next time the government shuts down, because I know it will.
Yeah.
I am going to remember why. And I hope people out there who might have had a similar question also remember why.
And while doing this research and like trying to get to the real bottom of all of this for you, I learned about the first government shutdown.
Ooh.
And I want to also validate the way that you feel about government shutdowns too, because that is something that is incredibly modern. I will tell the history of the first government shutdown, and I will tell you after that why our experience and our generation's experience with government shutdowns is really unique and weird. So I digress. During Reconstruction, so this is the 1870s, and more specifically 1879 was the first government shutdown in U.S. history. And for some context, after the Civil War, you had Congress assemble with politicians that not even a year ago were sworn enemies on battlefields in the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history. So like tensions were high. People were ready to take lives not so long ago. And the South loses the Civil War. And then Rutherford B. Hayes is elected. And his election was kind of, tell me if you've heard this one before, contested, controversial even. So that was another really funny thing that I learned is like, yes, we've heard all this stuff about election fraud and all that being something that the public talks about. And there's this like disgruntled approach. People have been saying that for over 100 years. So, which I just add is kind of comforting, because I think it's also really popular for people to say like, this is like the most chaotic our world's ever been, or like it's so exhausting to be alive right now. And it's like, yeah, it's exhausting, but also it's not new. Yeah. Anyway, so in 1879, the first government shutdown in U.S. history happened when former Confederate Democrats in Congress refused to fund the government unless protections for black voters went away. And so, oh my gosh. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, that is bad. That is genuinely so much worse than I could have ever thought. That seems okay. Yeah. Can I just say something? Yeah.
that's more of the reasoning I was thinking of today.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to be something just really tongue-in-cheek, especially with the Republicans.
Yes.
But, like, now they're just shutting down over dollar bills.
Yeah.
Like, to me, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say something. To me, that is so ridiculous. If you're going to shut down, it should at least be over something that matters, that's interesting, that's worth getting the press involved.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like, when they've shut down recently, it's been because, like, they can't just, they're negotiating funding for a bunch of different things.
Boring.
And it's boring.
Like,
this one was literally the southern states were like, your president's a fraud and we don't want black people to vote. And then the Republican Party at that time, this is the Lincoln Republicans, were like, no way, you're not going to do this. Please stop. Voters require protection.
As they should.
Yeah.
Glad that happened the way it did. But that's really interesting that was the shutdown that started it all, if you will.
And former Confederate representatives, or like representatives that used to be in the Confederacy, were even saying to the press how the Civil War shouldn't have happened because it's easier to kind of bully your way into this stuff through Congress than it is on the battlefield.
My gosh.
And so the end result of it is, because people would say like, okay, so it's shut down, and did they just like stop protecting black voters? No. It was so unpopular as a political tactic that essentially the Democrats had to like tuck their tails a bit, because every single bill that they voted without guaranteeing military-backed protection for voters during elections was getting vetoed by the president. So the president's like, voters get protected or you get no budget.
My follow-up to that is, if this was the first shutdown,
yes,
when was the next shutdown after that? Because you said that it wasn't obviously a commonly occurring thing, and today it seems like it is.
Yes.
So can you provide a little timeline context for me?
The next government shutdown wouldn't happen for almost 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, that seals the deal.
That seals the deal. And it was actually like there were some like intermittent shutdowns in, I want to say, the 70s and 80s, but it was never used as a political tactic until Newt Gingrich in the 90s ruled with his little curmudgeon iron fist.
And has it kind of just been going ever since? Because
it was popular for a couple like attempts, and then there was like
90s.
And then there was like a 20-year break, and then it's gotten popular again.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, right around the time when my brain was developing and I was starting to figure out what politics were, I noticed that it just felt like adults around me were just always talking about a government shutdown.
Yeah.
Like, if it wasn't happening, it was about to happen. Or maybe we just got over it.
They don't talk about the close calls in the history, too. Like,
no, but it's always, that's why I asked this question, because it seems like it's such a prominent issue. Like, okay, so I always see these memes online where it's like, as a kid, I really thought quicksand was going to be a bigger deal than it was. I'm kind of having that realization right now. It's like, for some reason, I just always thought that government shutdowns were like horrifying and like something really, really bad or corrupt was happening. For instance, like in the first one. But today, it's such a wimpy reason to shut down. I'm actually disappointed. Like, we're making all of this fuss over Congress credit card.
Yeah. And so I do want to clarify that when we go back, over 100 years for that, it was that the president was like holding the credit card,
dangling it like
a carrot in front of the legislators and saying, "Hey, you only get this if you protect black voters." So
to me, that's like what it should be used for today. And I guess, it kind of depends who the president is.
Well, so the issue, also a big difference between these two situations, is that back in over 100 years ago, sort of deal, they had the budget and they were trying to send it to the president, right?
But now they just can't even decide.
They can't
with
even
the
get a
budget.
speaker right now.
Okay,
so like that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I do understand that at least a little bit more.
Mhm.
But to me, I feel almost validated that I don't get it because it's such a circus over there.
Yes.
Like to me, there's no sense to it. It's nonsensical. Therefore, I just don't even want to think about it. I don't want to play into it. There's nothing that makes me more upset than people that make politics and specifically like what the government or Congress is doing all the time, their personality.
Yeah.
Like, grow up, people. It doesn't matter. It's all about the credit card.
It was
and
always
that's
about
it. It was
the
always
money.
about the money.
Yeah. And so I also have like a little bit for you here so you can see some more of that timeline. This is the overview of I just got a notification about a House Speaker vote. Speak of the devil. But this is an overview of shutdowns involving furloughs. So this doesn't include the, long ago one.
original.
But it's like, yeah, you had some in the 80s for like they're all listed at one day. The first one that's over a day is in 1990. Then you got 95 and then another one in 95, 96. And then
but that looks like a long one, 21 days. So that maybe started the idea like, we can actually do this.
Well, after the big old one, it wasn't attempted for another 17 years. So 2013, there was another one. And if you remember, because this is also really interesting to look at, if you go to the Wikipedia page for this, you can see who has control of the House and who has control of the Senate and who's the president at the time. Because those are the three groups that are going to be...
They're the players.
They're the players in the game. And so like Obama's government shutdown... So Clinton dealt with government shutdowns when the House and Senate were both controlled by Republicans. So I want to say that that's the Newt Gingrich age. And then Obama dealt with it when it was a split House and Senate. And then Trump had two government shutdowns, both with Republican control in House and Senate.
And those, obviously I remember the 35-day shutdown. And that's, like I said, when my brain was kind of developed enough to at least care what was going on. But even then, I didn't get it. And I think it's because there's so much press that comes out around this. It's almost impossible to sift through it without getting like suffocated.
Oh, totally.
And it's really, press is so good at hiding the actual story.
Yeah.
And it's for someone like me who like just wants to get to the bottom of it. I couldn't Google it.
So that was your bit on government shutdowns.
Now we know.
Now we know. We did our daily politics learning.
Yes. Let's move on from politics.
And let's do the bonus question.
Oh my gosh.
So this question is as follows. From foot to fathom, we all know about imperial units of measurement. But which of the following is not an imperial unit?
Oh no. Okay, here we go. Okay. Slug, bow, hand, gill.
3 of these are imperial units. You have 12 seconds.
Bow. Yes, my first one correct. I knew slug was gonna be in it. Oh my gosh.
Look at you.
I'm still in 8th place, but this is the first one I have answered correctly.
Congratulations.
Slug, bow, gill, and hand?
Yes. So a hand is 4 inches.
Okay, good to know.
A gill, I want to say I found that under either volume, kind of like where milliliters and stuff would be,
okay,
or ounces. I forget that one. My memory got wiped from it. And then what was the other one? So
gill or slug.
Slug. And yeah, so slug is, I've told you all about it. It's the same thing as newtons. It's a force, but for imperial units.
Maybe it's, I don't remember that conversation, but I know you tell me a lot of little tidbits, so maybe that was hidden in my brain somewhere, and that's why I answered it correctly.
Here's the only little fact that you need to know about slugs, though.
Okay.
Is, you know how if someone's using metric, they're like, I weigh this many kilos, right? Kilograms are a unit of mass.
Yes.
Slugs are a unit of mass, pounds are a unit of force. So how much of you there is measured in slugs, but how much force you're pushing on the earth is measured in pounds.
Personally, I don't think I want to know how much of me there is in slug form.
How many slugs do you contain?
Yeah,
I don't want to know either.
I think that that's probably good that is not a option on my scale.
Mm-hmm. You want to measure in slugs?
Okay. Well, you know what? Good to know. Happy to hear it. Mm-hmm. Let's move on.
All right. For our next question.
Okay, this is a real question. How do they get that pumpkin smell in the candle? Volatile, smelly oils. A whole lot of pumpkin. A mix of dry spices, including cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg. The essence of fall.
That was a great little narration there.
I'm going to go volatile, smelly oils. Totally slayed it. Got it right.
Nice.
Does this move me up?
You're up to 6 now.
6th place.
Congratulations. So yes, this is where I have now included a pumpkin spice essential oil blend recipe for you all. So this little extravaganza took me down quite a few rabbit holes because just like with envelopes, there is no ingredient list on a lot of these candles because you're not eating them.
Okay, let's back up a little bit before we give the good people what they want to hear. Everyone probably remembers being in chemistry class and you do the whole experiment of like, where does the candle wax go when you burn it?
Yeah.
Right? Got it. But my follow-up question to this is, okay, but how do you capture the essence of a smell and put it places?
Yes.
I think that same question could be asked for flavors as well.
Yeah.
But we're sticking to smell just because why not? I'm sure a lot of you have like walked down the candle aisle and you've seen different things like volcano blue eruption, fireside chat, clean linen dryer balls, essence of grass. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. First of all, who's even coming up with those flavors? They should really get checked out.
Serenity by Jan, but yeah.
But also, like, how does one capture a smell, bring it over to a wax blend, put it in? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I hear you. I see you that it's oils.
Yes.
Got it. I can envision that. But how? Like, obviously, pumpkin spice, you're not getting pumpkin guts and squeezing it up in a tube and putting it into a candle. Yeah. I'd like to think that's what you're doing, but you're not. Right? Like, it's oil. That's what I'm hearing from you. Like, so I need to clarify because I'm still having issues understanding this.
I'm about to say maybe the most controversial thing on the internet for the entire wellness community.
Oh, please do.
And this is not me trying to hate on wellness or that community in general. It's just I need to clear the air about what essential oils are.
But what about all the anti-vaxxers? What are they going to say?
So essential oils are not essential as in like I got all my essentials for the day or like my chargers for my devices are essential to pack. It's not.
You're telling me essence of orange blossom is not essential to keep my body functioning?
You know, it's funny because you use the word that essential is based off of. Essence, which just basically means like the smell or characteristics of.
Okay. Fair. I get that.
Fair enough. And so when essential oils are made, they are taking things that smell good in our lives, right? And they are often like, there's many different ways of doing it. One is you can kind of boil and create like water vapor that has the smell. Think of tea. You know, tea's got a good smell to it. But if you use something a bit more specifically smelly and you use like, for example, rosemary, you just have tons of sprigs of it and you're boiling it all up, you can capture that vapor and suspend it in oil often.
And does the oil help maintain that like odor?
Yeah.
Or like it kind of acts as like a little hug to it?
It's a little hug.
Like it grabs the odor molecule and it's like,
yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually learning here.
Yeah. So like all it is, I mean, it's just a process of like, because I would imagine that there are many different methods to getting essential oils out of things. Another thing too, for mint juleps, the cocktail, one of the things you're supposed to do is you take a mint leaf and you slap it on your hand, because then that
it releases the odor.
Yeah, it gets all the essential oils out, which just makes it more fragrant. So it's like, same thing with orange peels and cocktail. Like it's
so
a
it
thing.
Seems like movement is their little molecules have to dance around a bit.
Yes.
Essentially why you would boil something.
You got it.
Too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay.
Mind blown a little?
No.
Oh.
It's just, this might sound like I'm dumb or whatever. You say what you want. I really struggle with science and politics. Both are really difficult for me. And I'm genuinely getting it. So
really?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks because like I can now freely walk down the candle aisle and understand why they do what they do and how it got there. I can't understand why they make certain flavors or scents. That's their own issue. But I get it.
Yeah. So I'm
ready for the recipe.
Okay. I'm going to expand a little bit more because this is the only other thing that you need to know. When I said like smelly or volatile smelly oils, volatile just, I want you to think of, you have a glass of water and you have a glass of rubbing alcohol, right?
Okay. As I do.
One of the two is going to smell pretty strong.
The water. Just
hopefully not the water.
I get it. I know it's the rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
People.
And so if you've ever taken rubbing alcohol and like, rub down things to like clean them, you also see that it evaporates really quickly.
Yes.
And so the smell is just it evaporating and your nose picking it up. And any sort of volatile oils are just quick to evaporate, which is why you suspend them in wax for candles so they don't just all evaporate. So you're basically slowing down the smell release on it. Because,
with the wax.
Yeah, with the wax.
Okay. Makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm sure that there's elements of vapor when, melting wax and all that other stuff. But that's besides the point. We really want to know what the pumpkin spice essential oil blend is.
I want to know that Krabby Patty formula.
Yes. So pumpkin spice, as we all know, is a very seasonal, eclectic mix of fall spices. Doesn't come from a pumpkin. I want to make that clear.
Pumpkins actually, I think, smell kind of bad.
Yeah. But it's really good marketing in that it's like, we think pumpkin fall spice, pumpkin spice. So this is the recipe. So grab all of your essential oils. Get a flask
that you have just laying
that
around.
you have lying around, I'm sure. Do 20 drops of cinnamon bark, 20 drops of ginger root, 15 drops of nutmeg, 10 drops of sweet orange, and 5 drops of cardamom.
No nutmeg.
Or nutmeg was 15 drops in the middle. So cinnamon bark, ginger root, nutmeg, sweet orange, and cardamom.
Cardamom.
Okay.
I hear you. I see you. Love it. To me,
Cool.
that's like the ingredients for a really good pumpkin bread.
Yeah.
Too. So it makes sense that pumpkin spice is literally the ingredients in pumpkin bread.
Yeah.
Plus the pumpkin.
That's all it is.
But okay.
Which I kind of like thinking about too, because then it's like, am I eating pumpkin? Like, because for me, my brain was like, whole lot of pumpkin. Somehow it smells like that.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's no pumpkin in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now everyone out there has the recipe. All of you can now make your own pumpkin spice fall blend candle. And you will know how the scent molecules work, how it got in there, and why. The why is kind of up to you.
And I also do want to have a disclaimer. I understand that the aroma and candle world, there's probably a lot of technicalities that I'm glazing over. But from what I was finding, this is what narrative-wise, knowing the things I know, made the most sense for describing what happens.
I think that kind of goes for all of our questions. Like you are describing really complicated processes, and we're kind of just looking for a general understanding that we all can take with us and go out into the world and have just a better understanding of how things work.
Yeah. All right. So you ready for the final question?
Of course.
Why do airport trains feature narration from obscure local athletes?
It's better than someone off of Fiverr, to get people to pay attention to important announcements, to introduce you to local legends, or for the ambiance. I'm going to go to introduce you to local legends. Oh, you know what? And I knew it the moment I pressed it. I got it wrong. The correct answer is to get people to pay attention to important announcements. You want to know why I didn't click that one?
Why?
Because I don't give a rip. Like, I could not care less when a local, whoever the what, athlete is telling me to not leave my airport bag unattended or whatever they are saying on the airport train.
Undesignated spaces.
Because it's always, it's always someone from a football team, or sometimes baseball if you're lucky. And it's not like the Peyton Mannings, right? Because I know that name for sure.
Yeah.
It's always like just Joe Schmo.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that make me pay attention? It's a genuine question.
Yes, and I have a genuine answer too.
Okay, because obviously if you can't tell, I'm someone who doesn't follow sports and doesn't really care about that world. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people out there do, and you might have a opinion on this, and you might think, well, of course I'm going to listen, but I don't. So that's why I had this question when going through airports. I've had it for a while.
Yeah.
So.
You want to know the bigger answer?
I do. I want to know the bigger picture.
Okay. So let's take a look at the standings.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm in 7th place.
Ah, shucks.
It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay. We're doing great.
We're learning. That's what matters.
So this quote comes from a airport travel blog, but I thought it most succinctly summarized the general idea with all of this, because there's more to the story. If you're like most travelers, you probably tune out the monotonous airport announcements. Fair enough. That's why more airports have turned to celebrities to get important messages across. So all it's saying here, and I want to be really crystal clear, it's not that they're celebrities, it's just they're not the airport announcing voice. That's what gets people to clue in a little bit more, no matter what. It's a bonus when people recognize the voice. It's their creative way of doing it.
I see. Because you know what? I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I do tend to listen to it at least a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it isn't that airport voice, whatever.
Yeah.
But in the same way, most of the time I'm not necessarily listening to what words they're saying. I'm wondering, well, who the hell is this? And why should I care?
Yeah.
And maybe that's arrogance. Fair. Maybe that's just like a kind of a deep hatred for sports and football. But I've always just thought it's a little weird.
I hear you. I see you. I have a couple of little bits that might help answer this question, right? The first of which is that almost every city, or like cities that have airports, like major airports, are very likely to have professional sports teams. So it's like you're guaranteed to have a roster of people that some people in that city will know. Like greater American pop culture might be different, but some people in the city will know those people. The other thing too is that sports celebrities or people that are notable within their sports, they're not big picture celebrities. And we're seeing that play out in real time with the whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. I used to be very ignorant too, where it's like the world of sports I thought was a lot bigger in terms of media presence than it actually is. It's not that big compared to big picture media presence. And so when Taylor Swift dates someone, Taylor Swift is selling out the football stadiums Travis Kelce's playing in.
Not
only
Travis Kelce selling out.
Yeah. Like just her alone, and of course her team and everyone else that does the hard work of doing concert tours, acknowledged.
And the hardworking Swifties, they're the ones actually
hardworking
selling it out.
Swifties that are making, sizable earthquake type vibrations within cities, as measured. But it's like you couldn't even get into the Taylor Swift concert. I've never heard of someone saying, "Oh my goodness, the Seahawks game was so packed."
Couldn't get tickets.
Jeff Bezos couldn't get in. That's never happened to Travis Kelce. I'm sorry.
And
he's a wonderful guy.
Again, this is no hate, and I think you're right. That the sports world is not as big as people who are really immersed in it might think. And I think that's, I guess, what's always kind of weirded me out. It's like, well, why didn't they pick a different celebrity? And to me, it's like, oh, well, they just couldn't get them.
Yeah, and like that's a good chance.
Yeah, so they're going to maybe the next best option. I've also heard politicians. Yep. Which is another kind of spooky.
Ooh.
And so it's like, okay, well, obviously that's just press.
Yeah.
As well. And to me, that's also, now that's getting a little weird.
It is a media and communications endeavor to get these recordings and to put them into airports. Just to be very clear.
Yeah.
I also, while researching this, found that this is not just a phenomena in airport trains, of course. This is a phenomena in other trains. And one of the biggest sets of articles that I was able to find was about the MTA, which is the New York public transit system. And they were announcing having like Jerry Seinfeld and like some other people as new voices on.
I remember that.
On the subway. And so it's like, those are
That's sick, though.
Yeah, but that's because it's New York.
Okay. I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
But also, let's just use DIA, Denver International Airport, for example, because it's so huge. I'm sure many of you have at least been there once.
Yeah.
That's what really sets it off for me, is you have to take a train to get anywhere in that airport. There's some airports that are small enough you don't have to, so the athlete thing doesn't really apply. Yeah. But at DIA, it is so heavily used that you can't really get anywhere without hearing these voices. And the thing that really kind of gets me is there's a certain safety I feel when you hear that like classic Disneyland voice when it's like, please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times.
Yeah.
I want to have that in an airport. I want to feel that anonymity from someone that just like immediately makes me feel safe. That sense of authority. Yeah. I don't get that from those athletes. And I think that's what makes me so weary is it's like, well, why should I listen to you? Why are you here? This doesn't make any sense.
It's like, what do you know about trains?
Yeah, no, well, and what do you know about airports? You throw a ball around a little bit on a field, and now all of a sudden you're.
What do you know about the transit?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and so I think it's a really weird marketing ploy. I'm calling on it to stop. No, it's not.
It's canceled.
It's not that big of a deal, but it has always made me wonder. And so I get the answer. I just don't agree with it. I think it's time to go back to the almost godlike, deep,
booming voice.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know who you are. I've never met you, never seen your face, but I immediately trust you. Like
Bill from Wait, Don't Tell Me. You know
Yeah,
that's the voice that needs to be long forgotten and long gone are like the golden radio voices that.
Yes. You know what? We should cause a government shutdown just to get this in place.
Every airport is required to have some sort of golden era radio voice announced
by noon tomorrow or else.
A big reason also I was learning why they some of those voices are getting more and more phased out is because airports are trying to include more languages. They're trying to be more dynamic with the announcements that they make. So the turnaround from a voiceover recording to being implemented is a while, but changing the text for certain announcements allows you to change on the fly.
Yeah, and I do acknowledge that, and I think that's great too. I thought of another way to rephrase my frustration.
Okay.
So you talked about Travis Kelce.
Yes.
You know when a traditionally football or basketball player does something cool and starts to get a little bit of press noticing them, and all of a sudden now they're popping up in commercials, maybe they're the face of a cereal box, like whatever it might be. And you can just tell that they are so lifeless in those commercials. Like I call it Mr. Monotone because no matter how media trained these people are, they just can't convince me to buy whatever product they're being told to sell.
Yes.
And it gives me the same thing in the airports because it's that same lifeless monotone tone in these announcements.
Yeah.
And to me, then it's like,
you're right.
Why aren't we hiring voice actors? Like, let's make this interesting. Let's put some life back into this. Like you said, people aren't listening. They don't care what you have to say. And putting a random, like not even B-side, like D-team player on this to convince you isn't going to do it.
Yeah. I think that maybe the voice actor angle is a pretty strong one. Like, could you imagine? I just had this funny thought of they just hire like a crew of full-time celebrity voice impersonators because you see them all over TikTok.
Oh my God. Jennifer Coolidge. Like, are you kidding? No, I think there'd be some defamation.
Don't leave bags unattended.
Oh, you forgot your bag.
No smoking.
Yeah.
Like, I would listen.
Oh, for sure. And yeah,
but that's course, also our niche celebrity in the eyes of others.
Right, right. And the same thing we're saying about sports, people could say about that. I do think it should have that anonymity to it, though, because for some reason, I think people trust that more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, I'm happy to have this answered, but gosh, I'm just not satisfied with it, you know?
Me neither.
It's kind of a lame reason.
I also was, I can't tell if this is because of like search recommendation answers for me, but the majority of articles I was finding were about DIA, SeaTac, New York, like the MTA, and then the only one outside of that was for Miami's International Airport.
Oh, okay, because I had this idea that it was like all airports.
Yeah.
But
and then LAX had an announcement because Jimmy Kimmel did some voiceover for them.
Okay. And those 3 or 4 you mentioned are the airports we fly most.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
That I would think that. And of course, like smaller airports, I know they're not doing any of that. They're not wasting their time. That's why I said it's specifically these bigger ones with trains or some sort of transportation to get you between gates.
Yeah. Maybe we should ask the general question for your local airport.
Who would you like to see?
Yeah, like what voice do you want over the speakers, local or not? Yeah.
I want Jennifer Coolidge. I think that'd be hilarious.
That would be great.
Because she's been in like some new commercials lately.
Yeah, she's been doing big press runs
and she's,
now.
you know what? She's knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
There's something that...
I hope she's having fun with it.
Yeah, she is not lifeless. She is not monotone.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any more bonus questions?
Yeah, we have a bonus question.
Perfect.
This is the final question. This question is worth double points.
Okay, I could redeem myself here. Let's see.
All right. Multi-select. Double points. Where can you listen to Can I Tell You Something?
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or all the above. All of the above, baby. I know I slayed that one. Yup.
Boom.
Slayed the house. Boots.
Let's right.
See. Oh, I got up to 5.
You're at your top 5 now.
You know what? Didn't make podium, but I think I redeemed myself.
What did you? Bonus final question.
Oh my gosh.
This question is also worth double points.
Double points. This is craziness.
I know.
Another multi-select.
Double points.
Here we go. Where can I find us on social? Can I Tell You Something podcast. TikTok or Instagram or all the above. All the above.
All of the above.
All of the above meaning the two
Yes.
choices you gave.
Wow.
A podium!
And you made the podium because you knew the two most important things, which are you can listen to us or watch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And you can follow us on social media on TikTok and Instagram at Can I Tell You Something Podcast. That is Can I Tell You SMTH Podcast.
Wow, that was flawless.
Yeah.
All in one breath, too.
Wow.
I did it. Well, you know what? As silly as this episode was, I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I had fun doing it. And I made podium.
That was the Kahoot. What'd you think about it? Did you have fun?
I loved it.
I did too.
You know, as silly as it is, this structure and just playing Kahoot, and the questions, of course, were kind of silly too. I learned a lot. And I think you built a really safe learning environment, which is important for me, especially just opening up and asking questions that I just feel really dumb about. And I don't want to feel dumb about them anymore. That's part of the reason we started this. It's like I want to feel safe and also confident enough in myself that I can just ask these questions and not really care what people think because I genuinely want to know the answer. And for me, that's been part of just growing up, just learning like, hey, not everybody has a solution or understands everything in the way you think that they do. And asking questions, for me, is like the only way I can really learn.
I think that there's a very strong argument that that's the only way that anyone can learn. I had so much fun doing this. I love doing learning like this. If you can't tell, I do have a lot of inspiration from Wait, Don't Tell Me. I think that they do a really good job of making recapping news palatable and like fun and playful, and also the way that they structure those quizzes, like the audience will sometimes blurt out answers, and like people want people to win and to learn something and to have fun while doing so. So I'm glad that you felt that environment was here. That makes me really happy. And it makes me feel like I did the work I needed to do to get to the bottom of the questions you had.
Yeah. So if any of you out there have similar burning, dying questions that you just can't seem to get to the bottom to on Google, let us know either below or in our socials, and we'll try and include yours in the next rendition of You Can't Google That.
Can't Google that.
I love interacting, specifically on podcasts. Like you said, in Wait, Don't Tell Me, feels like the audience is blurting out.
Yeah.
It's fun to feel a part of it and see, maybe you already knew all of the answers to these questions because they were a little simple. But maybe we'll make it harder. I don't know.
I think that the last little thought I want to leave with is that most questions that we ask, right? We can either answer simply or we can really mull it over. And there is always a more in-depth answer or a bigger story behind the answer. You might get to the answer really quickly, but then just ask why one more time and a whole other story can show up.
Yeah, because it's that context, right? Like, for instance, in the government shutdown, you could probably figure out the basics of money. But like you said, actually going back in history and figuring out, first of all, when and why did the first one happen? And why didn't it happen again for another 100 years? What's the story there? Yeah. And I think that's where the actual learning happens. And so I'm glad that we were able to do that with some like seemingly mundane questions. But I feel like I learned a lot from each one.
It's it popped in my head where it's like maybe the real treasure was the friends that we got along. It's like maybe the real questions and the knowledge that we got were the answers that we got along the way.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It's a journey. Well, I think that just about does it for our quizzing. God, I am wiped out. I have quiz fatigue. Yes. And if you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes of the Can I Tell You Something podcast, please follow us on social media at Can I Tell You Something podcast. That is Can I Tell You SMTH podcast.
Subscribe if you're on YouTube. And follow if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. God, there's just so many ways to support, really.
And recommend it to all of your friends, to the people that are sitting next to you on public transit, to that one person that seems to have the same routine as you and you walk across the street from every day on your way to work.
Shout it to them.
And to that one car that cuts you off, at least recommend them a podcast.
Okay. Yeah, you can tell that we're tired.
Okay.
Well, that's it, folks.
All right.
Bye.